First contact folly. The Meridian vessel Eternal Light emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its crystalline structure refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Supreme Commander Azara Val stood on the bridge, her iridescent scales shifting from deep purple to azure as she studied the primitive system before her. The humans had barely managed faster-than-light travel, yet they had the audacity to reject the collective's initial diplomatic overtures. Status report, Azara commanded, her multifaceted eyes fixed on the main display. 17 human vessels detected. Commander, First Observer Krull responded, his tendrils weaving complex patterns as he interfaced with the ship's quantum sensors. Basic metallic construction. Minimal shielding. Their weapons appear to be primarily kinetic and nuclear-based. Azara's mandibles clicked in amusement. The Meridian Collective had spent millennia perfecting their biocrystal technology, merging organic and inorganic elements into living ships that could think and adapt. These humans, barely out of their planetary cradle, couldn't possibly comprehend the vast technological gulf between their civilizations. Open a channel to their flagship, she ordered. Let's give them one final chance to accept our generous offer of protection. The view screen shimmed to life, revealing a human male with graying hair and weather-worn features. His uniform was simple, lacking the biological enhancements that marked Meridian military rank. "This is Admiral James Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," the human stated calmly. "You're in violation of Sol space. State your intentions." Azara's scales rippled with barely contained condescension. "Admiral Chen, I am Supreme Commander Azara Val of the Meridian Collective. We have come to formalize your species' integration into our empire. Your primitive technology and limited understanding of cosmic principles make you vulnerable to the many dangers that lurk between the stars. We offer protection, guidance, and eventual elevation to full membership in the collective." Chen's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes that Azara couldn't quite interpret. "With respect, Commander Val, humanity has its own path to follow. We appreciate your offer, but we must decline. You misunderstand." "Admiral." Azara's voice carried the weight of countless successful conquests. "This is not a negotiation. The collective has determined that your species requires our oversight. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate the consequences of defiance." Behind her, the rest of the Meridian fleet emerged from hyperspace. 30 biocrystal warships, each one a masterpiece of evolved technology. Their living hulls pulsed with energy, weapon systems already targeting the primitive human vessels. Admiral Chen sighed, and that strange look in his eyes intensified. "Commander Val, I'm going to share something with you that many species learned too late. Humans have a particular talent for appearing less capable than we are. It's saved our lives more times than I can count." Azara's scales darkened with irritation. "Your bravado is misplaced. Admiral, our sensors have thoroughly analyzed your vessels. You cannot hope to." "Actually," Chen interrupted, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth, "your sensors have analyzed what we wanted them to see." He tapped a few controls on his console. "Allow me to introduce you to something we call quantum mimetic technology." The space around the human ships suddenly rippled like heat waves over desert sand. The primitive metal hulls dissolved, revealing sleek vessels of impossible design. Where there had been basic armor plating, now there were layers of dimensional phase-shifting materials. Where simple kinetic weapons had been mounted, now there were weapon systems that defied Meridian understanding. Azara's scales bleached white with shock. "Impossible." First Observer, report. Krull's tendrils writhed in distress as he processed the new sensor data. "Commander, these aren't the same ships. Their energy signatures are. I've never seen anything like this. They're operating on principles our science hasn't even theorized." "That's not all," Chen added, his smile growing wider. "Remember how I mentioned humans are good at appearing less capable? Well, we're also pretty good at making friends." Space twisted again, And suddenly the Meridian fleet found itself surrounded by ships of various designs, some biological, some mechanical, some seemingly made of pure energy. Representatives of species that the collective had dismissed as primitive or unimportant decades ago. "You see, Commander Val," Chen continued, "while your collective was busy looking down on everyone you considered beneath you, we were building relationships, learning from each other, and creating something new. A federation of equals, not an empire of subjects." Azara's proud posture faltered for the first time in her centuries-long career. You deceived us." "No, Commander. We simply allowed you to deceive yourselves. Your assumption of superiority did all the heavy lifting." Chen's expression grew serious. "Now shall we discuss terms for the Meridian Collective's peaceful cooperation with the United Federation of Species, as equals?" As Azara stared at the tactical display, showing her fleet hopelessly outmatched, she realized that the Collective's greatest mistake hadn't been underestimating human technology. It had been underestimating humanity's capacity to unite others against tyranny. Their ability to appear weak while gathering strength had turned the hunters into the hunted. "Very well, Admiral," she said, her scales slowly shifting to a humble shade of gray. "Perhaps it is time for the Collective to evolve." Chen's smile returned, warm and genuine this time. "Welcome to a new era, Commander Val. I think you'll find that working together is far more rewarding than standing above." As diplomatic channels opened between the ships, Azara couldn't help but wonder how many other primitive species out there were simply waiting for the right moment to reveal their true nature. The galaxy, she realized, was about to become a much more interesting place. The silent strike. Grand Tactician Nexus Vend stared at the holographic display aboard the Meridian command ship Destiny's Edge, his crystalline appendages twitching with anticipation. Despite Supreme Commander Val's diplomatic overtures, the Collective's High Council had secretly authorized a decisive strike against the human colonies. If they couldn't have humanity's willing submission, they would take it by force. Status of the stealth field. Ven's voice resonated through the biocrystal chambers of the bridge. "Operating at peak efficiency," his second, tactical analyst Mira, reported. "Our bioresonance signatures are completely masked. The humans won't detect us until it's too late." The Meridian battle fleet had spent 3 weeks carefully positioning itself around New Eden, humanity's most prosperous outer colony. 50 ships, each one a masterpiece of evolved technology, waited in perfect formation. The humans' supposed technological prowess had to be a bluff. No species could advance so quickly without leaving evidence. "All ships, commence attack pattern Sigma," Ven commanded. "Target their orbital defense platforms first, then—" "Sir." Mira's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. Detecting massive energy signatures everywhere. Space itself seemed to fold around the Meridian fleet. Where there had been empty void moments before, now there were human vessels, hundreds of them, appearing as if they had always been there, waiting. Their hulls rippled with strange geometric patterns that seemed to bend light itself. "Impossible," Ven whispered. "Our stealth technology is perfect. They couldn't have known." "This is Admiral Sarah Jung of the UEDF Normandy," a calm voice echoed through their communication system. "Your stealth technology is impressive, Grand Tactician, but you're operating on the assumption that we detect ships the same way you do." Ven's crystalline structure vibrated with frustration. "Explain yourself, human. While you've been focusing on masking your bioresonance signatures, we've been watching you through quantum entanglement sensors," John replied. "You can't hide ripples in spacetime, no matter how good your stealth field is." The tactical display updated, showing the true extent of their predicament. The Meridian fleet wasn't just surrounded. They were caught in a complex, three-dimensional web of quantum fields that effectively nullified their advanced propulsion systems. "You've been watching us for 3 weeks, Ven realized, his voice hollow. "Actually, we've been watching you since you left Meridian space," John corrected. "Those quantum mimetic ships you encountered last month. They weren't just for show. They were seeding quantum entanglement nodes throughout your territory, while you were distracted by their appearance. Mira's tactical readings suddenly spiked. "Sir, they're not just warships out there. They're construction vessels." Zhang's voice carried a hint of pride. "Another thing about humans, grand tactician, we're really good at building things on the fly. Those 3 weeks you spent positioning your fleet, we spent them constructing a quantum containment grid around this entire sector. Right now, you're sitting in what essentially amounts to a very large, very sophisticated butterfly net." "You mean this entire operation was—" Ven couldn't finish the sentence. "A trap?" "Yes. We needed to demonstrate something to the Collective's High Council, and you've helped us do exactly that." Zhang's tone grew serious. "Humanity doesn't want war, grand tactician. We've had enough of that in our own history. But if you force our hand, we will respond with everything we have. And we have a lot more than you realize." As if to emphasize her point, several human ships began deploying what appeared to be massive construction frameworks. Within minutes, they were assembling structures around the trapped Meridian fleet, permanent quantum containment facilities. "What are you doing?" Ven demanded, though he already suspected the answer. "Building a prison," Zhang replied matter-of-factly. "Your ships are now evidence in what the United Federation of Species considers an act of war. You and your crews will be treated well, but your vessels will be studied, documented, and used to build a case against the Collective's aggressive expansion policies." Ven's crystalline form dimmed as the reality of their situation sank in. Not only had they failed to catch the humans off guard, they had walked right into an elaborate trap that would have diplomatic repercussions throughout the galaxy. "One last thing," Zhang added, almost as an afterthought. "Those quantum entanglement nodes we seeded in your territory. They're still there, still watching. So when you eventually return home, please let the High Council know that the next time they plan a secret military operation, they might want to consider that the walls quite literally have eyes." As construction vessels continued their work around them, Ven received reports from his ships trying to breach the quantum containment grid. Each attempt failed spectacularly, their most advanced weapons dissipating harmlessly against fields that operated on principles they barely understood. "Orders, sir?" Mira asked quietly. Ven stared at the tactical display, watching as human ships methodically transformed their battle fleet into a floating museum piece. "Send the surrender signal," he said finally, "and prepare a full report for the High Council. They need to understand what we're really dealing with here." In the space around New Eden, the human fleet maintained their positions, their quantum field generators humming silently. They had achieved their objective without firing a single shot, a demonstration of power more effective than any battle could have been. The message to the Collective was clear. Humanity wasn't just technologically advanced, they were playing an entirely different game. And they were very, very good at it. Web of deception. Deep within the Meridian High Council's central chamber on their homeworld, First Infiltrator Lysax watched the proceedings through eyes that weren't his own. His consciousness resided within a perfect biological replica of Counselor Thex, while his real body lay dormant in a secure facility light years away. The biosynthetic infiltration shells were the Collective's most closely guarded secret, or so they thought. "The humans must be eliminated," High Counselor Vora declared, her crystalline form pulsing with barely contained rage. "They've humiliated our fleet, undermined our authority, and worst of all, they're inspiring rebellion among our protectorate species." Lysax played his part perfectly, modulating Counselor Thex's bioresonance patterns to display appropriate levels of concern and agreement. The Council remained unaware that every word, every subtle shift in their crystalline structures, was being transmitted directly to United Earth Defense Force intelligence. "Perhaps," Lysax spoke through Thex's form, "we should consider a more subtle approach. Our direct confrontations have proven costly." "Explain," Vora demanded. "We have infiltration units positioned throughout human space," he continued, knowing that this information would be of particular interest to his real employers. Why not utilize them to their full potential? A coordinated strike from within cold. A soft chime interrupted the proceedings. The chamber's advanced security systems suddenly activated, bathing the room in scanning beams that had never been used in recorded history. Interesting suggestion, Counselor Thex. A new voice echoed through the chamber. The main display activated, revealing the human woman with silver-streaked black hair and penetrating eyes. Or should I say, first infiltrator Lysax. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Security forces materialized from hidden alcoves, their weapons trained on Lysax's borrowed form. High Counselor Vora's crystalline structure turned a pale, sickly color. "This is impossible," she whispered. "This chamber is the most secure location in the collective." Director Elena Santos, UEDF Intelligence, the human, introduced herself. "And I'm afraid your security was compromised long before Lysax here arrived." "Though not by him. He's actually one of ours." Lysax felt a moment of professional pride as his cover was revealed. The humans hadn't just copied Meridian biosynthetic technology. They'd improved it beyond recognition. His infiltration shell was now transmitting everything to both UEDF Intelligence and the Council simultaneously. "You see," Santos continued, "when we first detected your infiltration units, we were impressed. Biosynthetic shells capable of perfectly mimicking other life forms. Brilliant. But there was one fundamental flaw in your approach." "And what would that be?" Vora demanded, trying to maintain some semblance of control. "You assumed you were the only ones who could create them." Santos smiled. "We didn't just reverse engineer your technology. We evolved it. Every infiltration unit you've sent into our space over the past 5 years has been identified, turned, and reprogrammed, including, I might add, the units that helped design your chamber's security systems." The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. Their entire intelligence network, their most sophisticated covert operations program, had been compromised from the start. "But why reveal this now?" another counselor asked. "Because," Lysax spoke, still through Thex's form, "you were about to launch a massive infiltration operation against Earth itself. We needed you to understand that it wouldn't just fail, it would backfire spectacularly." Santos nodded. "Right now, 60% of your infiltration units are actually working for us. The other 40% are simply providing us with valuable intelligence. Your entire covert operations infrastructure has become, essentially, an extension of UEDF Intelligence." "Where is the real Thex?" Vora demanded. "Having a lovely vacation on Titan," Santos replied. "We'll return him unharmed once this meeting concludes. He's been quite helpful in understanding Meridian psychology, though he doesn't remember any of our conversations, of course." The chamber's security forces remained frozen, unsure who to trust. How many of them, Lysax wondered, were also human-controlled infiltration units? "What do you want?" Vora finally asked, her crystalline form dim with defeat. "The same thing we've wanted from the beginning. Peaceful coexistence," Santos said. "But you needed to understand that your technological advantages aren't as absolute as you believed. This demonstration, while dramatic, was necessary to prevent a far bloodier conflict." Lysax began receiving the signal to disengage. His work here was done. The infiltration shell would dissolve harmlessly once his consciousness withdrew, leaving no evidence of its artificial nature. "One last thing," Santos added. "Those rebellious protectorate species you mentioned, they weren't inspired by our example. They'd been working with us from the beginning. Your entire empire is already part of a larger network, one built on cooperation rather than domination. You just didn't know it until now." As Lysax prepared to disconnect, he watched the Meridian High Council grapple with the revelation that their greatest strength, their technological superiority, had become their greatest vulnerability. The humans hadn't just caught up to Meridian technology. They'd transformed it into something entirely new. The age of Meridian dominance was over, and they hadn't even seen it ending. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their quantum technology or their biosynthetic infiltration units. It was their ability to turn an enemy's strengths against them, all while appearing to be several steps behind. The web of deception had served its purpose. Now it was time for the collective to decide whether they would adapt to the new reality or continue fighting a war they'd already lost without knowing it. Breaking point. The Meridian Armada materialized in Sol space like a crystalline storm, thousands of bioships stretching across the void. Supreme War Master Kelks, newly appointed after the High Council's reorganization, had committed every combat-capable vessel to this final offensive. Earth would fall, or the collective would cease to exist as a power in the galaxy. All ships report ready, First Battle Coordinator Senna announced, her crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. The humans appear to have concentrated their defenses around their homeworld. Kelks studied the tactical display. The human fleet seemed absurdly small compared to the Meridian force, barely 300 vessels arranged in a loose defensive formation around Earth. Their quantum mimetic technology was useless now. The collective had developed countermeasures based on their captured ships. "Begin the assault," Kelks commanded. "All ships, advance in." "War Master." Senna's voice cracked with alarm. Multiple energy signatures detected. Within our formation, space rippled throughout the Meridian fleet as hundreds of structures suddenly phased into existence. They weren't ships, they were weapons platforms, each one already powered and targeting the nearest Meridian vessel. "Impossible," Kelks whispered. "We swept for quantum signatures." There was nothing. "This is Admiral James Chen of the UEDF, a familiar voice transmitted across all frequencies. "I see you've brought more ships this time." "Good, you'll need them." The weapons platforms activated simultaneously, unleashing streams of focused quantum energy that twisted space itself. Meridian ships began disappearing, not exploding, simply ceasing to exist as the fabric of reality folded around them. "Full retreat," Kelks ordered, but it was too late. The platforms had created a quantum interference field that prevented hyperspace jumps. The mighty Meridian Armada was trapped. "Your countermeasures against our quantum mimetic technology are impressive," Chen continued conversationally. "Unfortunately for you, we developed that technology specifically to be copied and countered. It's what we call a honeypot in intelligence work." Kelks watched in horror as more human ships emerged from behind Earth's moon, their designs unlike anything seen before. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls seemingly phasing between different states of matter. "You see, War Master," Chen explained, "while you were focusing on countering our visible technology, we were perfecting something else entirely. We call it quantum state manipulation. These new ships don't just bend light or mask their signatures. They can selectively choose which laws of physics they want to obey." As if to demonstrate, a human vessel simply passed through a Meridian battlecruiser as if it were made of smoke, its weapons fire somehow still very real and very deadly. "By the first light," Senna breathed. "Their ships are operating on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously." "That's not the worst part," Chen added. "Remember those quantum entanglement nodes we seeded throughout your territory? They weren't just for surveillance. They were preparing the quantum field resonance network for this moment." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the Meridian fleet as their biocrystal technology began responding to external commands. Their living ships, the pride of Meridian engineering, were being reprogrammed through quantum entanglement. "Your biocrystal technology is remarkable," Chen continued. "Living ships that can think and adapt. But like any living thing, they can be communicated with. And over the past few months, we've been teaching them a new language." Kelks watched helplessly as ship after ship in his fleet powered down, their crystalline structures resonating with new patterns. The human quantum network wasn't just interfering with their systems, it was converting their entire fleet. "This is your final warning." Chen's voice carried a note of genuine sympathy. "The collective can either adapt to a new way of existence, or it can end here. We don't want to destroy you. We want to help you evolve, but we will not allow you to threaten Earth or any other world again." In that moment, Supreme War Master Kelks understood the true depth of humanity's victory. They hadn't just outmaneuvered or outfought the collective. They had fundamentally changed the rules of what was possible. The Meridian's technological superiority, maintained for millennia, had been rendered obsolete in a matter of months. "We," Kelks's voice faltered, "we surrender." "A wise choice," Chen replied. "Now shall we discuss the terms of the collective's transformation? We have some ideas about how your biocrystal technology could benefit everyone in the galaxy, not just the Meridian elite." As the quantum platforms maintained their containment field, human ships began approaching the disabled Meridian fleet. They came not as conquerors, but as teachers, ready to show the collective a new way of existing in the cosmos. The breaking point had come not in a moment of destruction, but in a moment of transformation. Humanity had proved that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their ability to imagine and create futures that their opponents couldn't even conceive of. Dawn of Understanding. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, the Great Hall of the United Federation of Species headquarters buzzed with anticipation. Former Supreme War Master Kelks, now serving as the Meridian representative, stood before the assembly. His crystalline form had evolved over the past months, incorporating patterns and structures that would have been unthinkable in the old collective. The integration of quantum resonance technology with our biocrystal matrices has opened possibilities we never imagined. Kelks addressed the gathered representatives of over 50 species. "Our ships no longer simply adapt, they transcend traditional boundaries of space and time. But more importantly, they communicate. They share. They grow together." Admiral Chen sat in the Earth section, a slight smile on his weathered face. Beside him, Director Santos watched the proceedings with keen interest. The transformation of the Meridian Collective from would-be conquerors to active participants in galactic society had exceeded even their optimistic predictions. "But technology is not the most valuable lesson we have learned," Kelks continued. "The humans taught us something far more precious: the power of genuine cooperation, the strength that comes not from domination, but from diversity." The assembly hall itself was a testament to this philosophy. Built using a combination of technologies from dozens of species, it could shift its configuration instantly to accommodate any form of life. Quantum state manipulation kept multiple environmental conditions existing simultaneously in the same space, allowing species from water worlds to sit comfortably next to those who breathe methane. The old collective sought to protect through control. Kelks's voice resonated through the chamber. "We believed our technological superiority gave us the right to decide the fate of other species. We were wrong. True protection comes from understanding, from allowing each civilization to develop its own path while sharing knowledge freely." A holographic display activated above the assembly, showing the new projects being developed through interspecies cooperation. Meridian biocrystal ships now served as living research stations, their quantum-enhanced consciousness facilitating breakthrough discoveries in fields from medicine to dimensional physics. "Humanity didn't defeat us," Kelks declared. "They awakened us. When they could have destroyed our fleet, they chose to teach our ships a new way of being. When they could have dismantled our empire, they helped us transform it into something greater." Director Santos leaned over to Chen. "He's come a long way from trying to conquer Earth," she whispered. Chen nodded. "They all have. Sometimes people just need to see that there's another way." The holographic display shifted to show the latest achievement: a massive structure taking shape in neutral space. The Genesis Archive, as it was called, would serve as a repository of knowledge from all member species, its quantum crystal matrix allowing instant access to centuries of accumulated wisdom. "The humans had a saying that guided their approach to us," Kelks continued. "A rising tide lifts all boats." They understood that true advancement comes not from hoarding knowledge or power, but from sharing it, from allowing each civilization to contribute its unique perspective to the greater whole. The assembly erupted in resonant tones of agreement, each species expressing approval in their own way. The chamber adapted automatically, modulating the acoustics to ensure every sound was heard clearly without overwhelming sensitive auditory organs. 1 year ago, we thought we were coming to Earth to end a threat to our dominance. Kelx's form pulsed with what humans had learned to recognize as emotion. Instead, we found the key to our evolution. The humans didn't just show us new technology. They showed us a new way of existing in the cosmos. Admiral Chen stood, drawing the assembly's attention. The Federation doesn't seek to eliminate differences between our species, he said. Those differences are our greatest strength. What we build here is not uniformity, but harmony. A space where each civilization can achieve its full potential while contributing to something greater than itself. Director Santos joined him. The quantum networks that once watched for invasion now carry knowledge and culture between worlds. The biosynthetic shells that were tools of infiltration now facilitate understanding between species that could never physically meet. Every instrument of war has been transformed into an instrument of growth. Kelx's crystalline form shifted into a new configuration, one that incorporated patterns from dozens of member species, while remaining uniquely meridian. This is the dawn of a new age, he declared, not of empires or collectives, but of true unity, where strength comes not from what we can take from others, but from what we can learn from them. The assembly hall resonated with waves of agreement. Representatives from former Meridian Protectorate worlds sat alongside their one-time overlords as equals. Species that had hidden their true capabilities now shared them openly, contributing to the Federation's growing knowledge base. As the session concluded, Chen and Santos met Kelx in a private chamber. The former War Master's crystalline form now interfaced seamlessly with the quantum field, allowing him to exist partially in multiple states, a living symbol of what cooperation could achieve. Did you know? Kelx asked them. When you first revealed your quantum technology, did you know it would lead to this? Chen smiled. We hoped. Humanity's greatest gift isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our ability to imagine better futures and our determination to make them real. The dawn of understanding, Santos added, never comes from conquest. It comes from the moment when different peoples look at each other and see not threats or subjects, but fellow travelers in the grand journey of existence. Outside the chamber, Earth's sun set on a galaxy fundamentally changed. The age of empires and collectives had given way to something new, an era where diversity was strength, where cooperation bred innovation, and where the combined wisdom of countless species pointed the way to a future limited only by imagination. The humans had not just won a war. They had changed the very nature of what victory meant, and in doing so, they had given the galaxy something far more precious than conquest could ever achieve: the promise of endless possibility.